Hi, this is Steve, and we're back with another video. We kind of took a couple weeks off because we were working on some of the t-shirt stuff and getting that up and running. So be sure and check out the t-shirts. It's new, and there's a learning curve on it, but we're putting the time and effort into it. So hopefully that pans out and works out good. Today we're talking about a topic that affects a lot of people, both in the world and in the church. I think a lot of people suffer, a lot of their joy is stolen, a lot of their purposes, they're diverted from their purpose, or they just are tormented by resentment. And there's a lot of practical tools that we're going to get to and ways of looking at things that can help dealing with resentment. And we're also going to look at some of the cause of resentment and why this is such a big problem today. And this is one of them subjects that I think that it's so ingrained in us that we're just not going to see one thing and just not have a problem with it anymore. That it's going to be a process, and there's going to be work involved in growing and understanding. And of course, the greatest way to deal with any of this stuff, in my opinion, is you jump in the Word and you stay in the Bible and you read and stay as close to God as you can. And I believe He opens our eyes and shows us a lot of stuff that changes how we see it forever. But on resentment, I think a lot of the element to this, especially with the world and the way they see this, and we come back to this time element, and we're on the timeline thing again today, and this is the world's time, and this is our life in Christ. Once we're saved, our timeline drastically changes. The world has this point A to point B, life and death. And, most people in the world believe that something happens afterwards, or maybe nothing, or, there's heaven, maybe there's not, there's an afterlife. But it's so undefined that they don't allow it to have as much impact in this time. And so a lot of people in the world are looking at their life from the day they're born to the day they die and what they want to happen in between. And everybody wants to have a good life. They want to have as less problems as possible. They want to have as much joy, happiness, prosperity as they can cram into this time. And because of that, we feel this constant pressure that there's countless possibilities, the things that can happen any day to divert us from achieving what we're trying to achieve in this time. So, of course, when something happens on this timeline that diverts us from living our life how we want to live it, that it automatically causes a reaction from us. Often this reaction is anger, victimization, or, and all these things grow into resentment. And so the way we look at the incident and how we let it affect us is going to dictate how much resentment is going to be involved with that. So, the world, they of course have this pressure, and they're constantly operating under that stress. For us that are born again and living a spirit-filled life in Christ, we've spent a life up to this point living like this, and then when we get saved, we have to really reiterate and renew and freshen our mind to the fact that we no longer live on this time. The pressure should be dissipated. We're going to live forever. We're going to live till we die on this timeline, and then we're going to heaven. So the pressure to cram the full experience into this time suddenly isn't as much of a pressing issue and problem. But we've lived this way for so long in a lot of cases that we haven't developed the tools or the awareness to let go of a lot of that. And you see a lot of bitterness in the church. Also, there's a little bit of a tendency, maybe a big tendency, that now that we're in this time, that we think none of these things should happen to us in our life. and that we shouldn't have the same troubles and strife and hardship that the world has. That's not what Jesus said. Jesus said, in this world you will have trials and troubles, but fear not. Jesus overcame the world, and in him we can overcome this and not be as affected and reactionary to these events as the people in the world are. So, but you see that in the church there's still a lot of bitterness, anger, and I think it's because a lot of people haven't put in the time to change the way they look at this and to renew their mind and put these things in the true perspective in the place that they belong. So even though we're saved, if we continue to react to these situations in the same old way we did, we're going to, the consequences are going to be different for us in the sense that it's going to steal our joy in Christ. It's going to divert us from our purpose and fulfilling God's purpose for us. But also, if we let that bitterness and resentment grow, we're also going to direct some of that at God. And it's real easy for a Christian to have an idea of what this experience is going to look like. And then when we have trials and tribulation, it's real easy to think, hey, wait a second, God, I thought you loved me. Why is this happening to me? And if we don't put this in the proper place and look at it properly, we are going to let that affect our view of God. And there's a lot of people in the church that still think God's angry at us, or God's punishing us, or God's put these hardships and trials on us. And, you know, that's always going to put a division between us and our relationship with God. And is it going to cause us to not go to heaven? No. Once we're saved, we're saved. We believe in Christ. We believe in Christ. We believe he died for us. We believe he rose from the dead and he's with God. But who wants to live out this existence here on this earth with no purpose, with no not being able to fulfill God's will for our life, not being able to find the true joy in walking this life out with God? So, you know, resentment is a huge thing, and a lot of resentment is how we look at things, what our expectations are, and a lot of this is based in pride. You know, once we get saved, we kind of think, you know, this shouldn't happen to me. I'm you know, holy. I'm saved. I'm living with God. I'm righteous. And it's okay for us if this stuff happens to the people in the world, because we're like, hey, you know, that stuff's going to teach you a lesson, and, you know, maybe you'll learn and come to Christ through all these hardships and trials. But yet we can't stop and look at our own hardships and trials and find, you know, a purpose and reinforcement of God's plan in our life through that. You know, the Apostle Paul had more trials and tribulations than a lot of people, and, you know, he counted it all as gain. You know, the more the world was after him and the more hardships he had, the more he really felt that he was walking out God's purpose for his life. Not that the trials and hardships were the purpose, but that the trials and hardships helped refine and define his purpose. They helped him to, you know, walk out this walk and not let his faith and belief in Christ be dictated by the world and the circumstances around him. And so we're going to get a lot more into the cause of resentment and some of the tools to deal with it. And I know this is a big subject, so to try to actually get through it in 10 minutes and give you anything useful is unrealistic. So if resentment is a problem and you really would like to be free of that, let's watch a couple more of these videos, and we're really going to try to give you something concrete that can help you with this. Because boy, I know I struggled with this for a lot of years and in a lot of different ways, and it came out in a lot of different forms. Thanks.